Hi everyone, my name is Renee Burns and this is the case study for EDL 858. Case summary: Miguel is a talented, goal-oriented sophomore. He doesn't have equitable access to the class that he needs. He had a recent football injury which rendered him to a wheelchair, and now he is returning to Nottingham High School, and it is the only high school in their community. The counselor ended up changing his schedule because he couldn't access the classroom, and she did not communicate that with parents, and parents arrived to the school with an attorney. They were upset that they were not notified, and they demanded that he be placed back in the biology class. And then at the end, the attorney listed Miguel's rights with free appropriate public education and Section 504. So we do have some legal issues here. The school is failing to provide equitable access, which violates our Section 504, also FAPE. We don't know if there's an IEP or 504 plan, but if there is one in place, then they are violating that as well. It is illegal to discriminate against people with disabilities. That's from the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I would like to know if there's past students with disabilities. This is a school of over 3,000 students. I would find it hard to imagine that there have not been any in the past or currently that also are having this same issue. And could there be staff members with disabilities? The parents also should have been notified. That would be an ethical issue. So let's synthesize this into one sentence. A student's schedule was changed because he could not physically access the classroom. So what people are we working with? We've got Miguel. He is a sophomore, which means we have 2 more years of this with him. So it'd be best to fix this issue now. His parents, we also have all the other parents if there are other students with disabilities that are having a hard time getting to their classes, other students that might suffer from this or have any other issues where they couldn't have equitable access, are there staff members. Myself, I am the principal. The district leaders, the board's going to become involved, and then we have our superintendent, Dr. Harvey, Miss Guzman, our counselor, and Howard Carey is the attorney. Places: we are Nottingham High School. It is a 70-plus year or close to 70-year-old building. It's the only high school, and in this high school we have 3,200 students. That probably indicates that there's a very large staff as well. It is in the community of Dover. We have a very supportive community. We have some renovated classrooms, and we also have relocatable trailers, and a fourth of our building is not accessible. The programs we have, it is mentioned that we have excellent programs and services with the help of our parents and community. We have a lack of funding, and that is why we still have a fourth of our building not accessible. We have a wonderful working relationship with all the staff across the district. We have a successful football team, and the football team is valued in the community. And part of the program that we're going to talk about is there is a future college that requires biology as a course or as a prerequisite to get into that school. So let's review and prioritize. Miguel does not have equitable access to the class that he needs to get into the college of his choosing. Therefore, he does not have access to a free and appropriate public education. School has not communicated effectively, and we do not know if he has an IEP or 504. I'm assuming that he should have a 504 at this point, and other students or staff with disabilities, we need to find out if there are others. And if there are, this is a perfect case of, those not being treated equally and having the same options and available classes as those without disabilities. So, all right, so we have several options here. We can do nothing. This would be just to make excuses and say, well, we do not have the funding for this, therefore this is where we're at. So this is the choices that we have for him. The consequences is that we are legally liable at this point, and that there is a lack of equitable resources, and that's a big issue here. There is a long-term fix. We could allow Miguel to take the needed class next year. Like, let's just fix this next year. He has 2 more years. We could allow him to take that biology class next year or his senior year. We could wait for funding or to relocate some of the classes this summer. We could build a new building in the future. The consequences of that is that in the future, it would be equitable for all in the future, but right now it's not equitable. And then we might be waiting forever. I live in a town right now where we have been trying to get a bond passed for many years now, and it's not happening. So waiting is not always a good choice, and that right now, currently, we are liable at this moment with what we are choosing to do. So short-term fix would be to put Miguel in the needed class, but by moving the class or rearranging classes so that it is in an area that he could reach. We could continue to make do when the issues arise. So if there's another issue that comes up or the next semester he needs a different class, just move those around constantly. The consequences of that is that it would correct our mistakes that we've made so far, but it's not really a proactive approach. There would be this constant stress of having to move teachers or move classrooms, and that's not something that's going to really build rapport with your staff members. It'd just be that constant stress of if you're going to have to move. So the last option I have is a combination of a short-term and long-term scenario here. We could develop a team to rearrange classes so that Miguel and possible others would have access to their needed classes. But then that'd be kind of the short term, and then long term would be to work with the school board, the community, to begin a process of a bond. And then also we need to train staff, especially the counselor, in laws and regulations dealing with students with disabilities. The consequences of this would be that that's going to be a lot of work right now to make this happen, but it would correct our mistakes and it would get the ball rolling for the future, and we would ensure that it doesn't happen again, and we would collaborate with the community. So we're going to evaluate these options. If we do nothing, the pros of that is that it's easier maybe at this point. I don't think it would be, but to some people, ignoring and making excuses and avoiding the issue seems easier to them. The cons of that is that we're still legally liable. We would strain the positive relationships that we have built, and it is not equitable for all. The pros of a long-term approach is that our future students would have equitable opportunities, and staff would have those as well. The cons is that it's going to cost money and it's hard work. Short-term pros would be that it's equitable for our current students and our current staff, and it's legal. The cons is that it was going to be chaotic, it's going to be hard work, it only fixes the current issues, and it's going to cost some money. So when we combine long-term and short-term, the pros is that we're now legal, it's going to be equitable for all, we're going to keep our positive school culture, and the staff is going to be aware and proactive. The cons is that it is going to be chaotic right now, short term, and then it's going to be a lot of hard work and it's going to cost some money, but it's going to be worth it. All right, so we're going to choose the short-term and long-term combination. It's a temporary fix for Miguel. We can begin the process of a bond. We can let the community know of the problem and get them in, get them on the board, or get on board to help. Sorry. It is the only high school, so there's bound to be more students coming up with disabilities. There's not another option to send those kids to a different school. This is the only option we have, so we need to fix it. We can train staff of the laws and regulations regarding students with disabilities. To implement, I'm going to start with Miguel and his parents. First off, I'm going to apologize. They have already been through enough, and this is not something that they should be having to deal with. A school is the place where they should count on us to help them out in any way we can, and we should not be causing frustration for them in any way. We are going to ensure that arrangements are being made to get Miguel back into biology, get him with his peers so that he can interact completely and have that same access that all of the other students would have access to. We're going to build that relationship that might be strained at this point. We're going to thank them for advocating for their child. That's huge that they were willing to come up and advocate for their child, so we're going to thank them for doing that. And then we're going to see, if we haven't had a 504 plan set up yet, we're going to make a meeting to sit down with them and create that plan together. Next, I'm going to meet with Ms. Guzman, the counselor, who failed to talk with the parents about changing the schedule. We're going to inform her of free appropriate public education in Section 504. She needs to be aware of those, especially if she is in charge of scheduling for students. We're going to ask her to place Miguel back into the biology class right away. We're going to find out if she has done this with other students. Is this something that she's doing often with students, just assuming that they can't make it to class and so not letting them into those classes? Is this something that's been under my radar this whole time? So I need to become aware of this. And then let her know that this could have been avoided. communicating with parents is a very important part, and that I would have wished that she would have gone about it in a different way and let her know what exactly I would have liked her to do. Be very explicit and clear with her. Then I'm going to make sure that we have a 504 plan and we create it together as a team for Miguel. The next staff meeting, I'm going to inform staff of laws regarding students with disabilities. It's clear that maybe we weren't understanding of those, so we need to make sure that all of our staff are fully aware of those, that are the laws and policies in place. And we're going to ask to be on the agenda for the next board meeting to discuss accessibility issues at my high school. This is something that obviously is long overdue, and I need to be making sure that all stakeholders are aware of these issues, and that we do have students with disabilities that this is, they could be held liable for not making those accommodations for them. So then I'm going to make contact with Howard Carey, the superintendent, which I believe that's the wrong name that I'm looking at that. I'll have to go back and look. That might be the attorney's name. I'll go back and look, but I need to be making contact with the superintendent. I'm going to explain the situation, ask for advice, let him know that what I've done thus far. I'm going to set up a meeting with myself. Also, building maintenance would be someone that I'd like to invite to the meeting. Mr. Carey, Ms. Guzman, and the attorney representing our district. I think it's important to have representation of that on our side as well. I'm going to discuss options. Short term, could we purchase a ramp just to get us through for the end of the year before we can make more solid structural changes? How can we move classrooms if we need to, relocate the trailers if we need to do that? So just kind of as a team come up with options, and then explain wishes for long term, what I would like to do, what I think is needed. It sounds like we have a very strong community that supports our school system and are very proud of what we've done with our schools. So if that's the case, there's a strong possibility that a bond will pass, especially if we share the issues that we are facing. But that's not necessarily the focus of this meeting. I'm looking at a short-term fix right now, how to make this work for Miguel and any other students or staff that are having this issue. And then the important thing I need throughout the entire process is to communicate with all stakeholders. Keep them invited and participate, collaborate with all of them to be a part of these big steps that we're making towards doing the right thing. And even though it's going to cost money, and even though it's going to be a little chaotic at first, it is the right thing to do because we want our students to all be able to have a free, appropriate public education. So that is the law, and we need to make sure that we are providing that for them. Thank you so very much.